Welcome to my YouTube channel, ZenLifeFullout.com, for my second ever podcast. My name is Willie Bell, and today I will be interviewing Aaron Cook. Be on the lookout for more podcasts where we will discuss health, fitness, nutrition, gardening, the great outdoors, and home repairs. Please let me know if you would like to hear about any other subjects, and be on the lookout for more podcasts. So I'm going to introduce you to my listeners. So this is my second ever podcast for ZenLifeFullout.com. I am going to be speaking about health, fitness, nutrition, and today my guest is Aaron Cook. He and I belong to a small fraternity of survivors of brain cancer. Aaron had a grade 3 oligodendroglioma. Am I correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about your story.
Yeah. So in 2013, I was at the beach in Washington State with my family, little kids and in-laws, and having a good time over 4th of July weekend, when suddenly I had a really bad headache and wouldn't go away no matter what I did. And that was a little concerning, but I just thought, oh, it's just probably, from dehydration or something else. Didn't obviously think of anything too horrible. So then one day we drove an hour and a half down to this really cool beach in this area of Washington, near Forks, which many people probably know from the movie Twilight. So we were down in there, hiked down to the beach, got onto the sand, and had a massive grand mal seizure. So, yeah. So the cool thing about this, and I want to share this because it's kind of miraculous in some ways. I was in the car for an hour and a half prior to the seizure with my whole family down windy, beach roads. Mm-hmm. So imagine if I had had one in the car, we'd probably all be dead. So that is, something to just be grateful that it didn't happen that way. And not to mention, we hiked down kind of a rocky hillside, and nothing happened. And then I got down on soft sand where literally I was falling on sand, when I fell. And so just a miraculous, in my opinion, just sort of, God intervening in my life and saying, we're not going to let it happen anywhere else or with anybody else that'll hurt anybody else, which is really cool for me.
That is miraculous.
Yeah. After the fact, obviously, I wasn't too excited about that till later on, but yeah. So then I was airlifted to Seattle because we were in Podunk Forks. They didn't have any, they took me to the hospital and they said, "Oh, you have a brain bleed, and that's not good, but we don't have the means to do anything about it." So I got airlifted to Harborview. I stayed at Harborview for 5 days. They couldn't figure out what was going on, scans and tests and CTs and MRIs and blood tests and all this different stuff, and they were kind of stumped. So then they came back and sent me home, and came back after talking with sort of the board of directors at the University of Washington Cancer Center, and determined that I did indeed have this tumor. And at that time, it was only a grade 2. And they suggested that we do surgery to resect it out of there. And then after that, kind of watch and wait, no treatment. They didn't recommend any treatment. They didn't think I needed to do radiation or chemotherapy at that time. Side note on that, though, they would have done it differently now. So if that happened to somebody today, just like my case, they would do both treatments at that point. Yeah. So,
chemo and radiation.
Yeah. Even though it was a 2, and even though they wanted to watch and wait, they would do it just in case. And I think that's just learning over the years, kind of how to treat this very rare tumor. So then from 2013 to 2017, life was fairly normal after surgery. And then in 2017, I went in for my every 4-month checkup, and the doctor, we knew something was wrong because the doctor came in concerned, and there was a couple of them. So you always know, when there's two or 3 doctors coming in the room, something's not right. And they just said, "Hey, the tumor's back with a vengeance." And it's growing in the same cavity where we took out the first one, but it's growing fast. It just went from nothing to this sort of mushroomy kind of huge mass in your brain. So we're going to have to do surgery. So surgery again, And then this time, chemo, radiation, the whole deal. And that, that part was difficult, but I actually was, I was preparing for the worst, and it ended up for me. I know everybody's different, but it ended up being not that bad for me. I mean, I felt tired and I felt sort of run down, and I felt obviously maybe a little bit depressed at times, but physically I didn't really feel the effects that I've heard about from those treatments, like, throwing up and, all that. So I was grateful for that. So that's kind of the couple phases. And then, I'm on anti-seizure medication, and I'm on all this stuff to try to keep the seizures away, because that's part of.
What are you on?
So right now I'm just on Dilantin, which is an old school, 1960s drug, because for some reason my body only likes Dilantin. So.
And you can tolerate it.
Yeah. I'm actually on, what's kind of crazy, and maybe the listeners probably won't know this, but it's an interesting little side note, is that I'm on a almost toxic dose for most people. And for whatever reason, my body metabolizes a drug a lot faster than other people. And so I'm able to take more. What was that?
How many milligrams a day are you taking?
So I'm taking 600 a day.
Oh, wow.
So 3 in the morning and 3 at night. 3. Yeah. So that's a lot. So they're kind of stumped in that way. Like, this is not a drug we even prescribe anymore. And for some reason it works for you, because they switched me to Keppra.
Yeah.
Which is another drug.
That either.
No. And I ended up metabolizing the Keppra too fast.
Yeah.
And then I had nothing left. So then I had seizures, which Keppra is the number one most prescribed anti-seizure drug in the world. So, of course it didn't work for me. So in 2017, I had 2017, and then 2019, feeling good all through, everything good. And then, had a pretty bad seizure that year at Christmas Eve, and went to the ER, did the whole thing, and then just kind of kept, and then that was good. Couldn't drive for 6 months, which sucks. And then felt like we got it under control, kind of decided at that point, like, okay, we'll up the Keppra and we'll see how you do with that. And then that didn't work. I had another one in June. And then at that point, it was like, okay, we got to get you back to what you did before, which was working just fine. So that's when they put me back on Dilantin. So the seizure part has been difficult. I think you don't think about the not driving deal, but for me, with a family and all the things I have to kind of do, it's an inconvenience, living in this area in the city and close to things that I have to go do, a job or a grocery store or just the mundane stuff. It's like having one person not driving is inconvenient, to say the least. So,
how are you getting to and from work?
So a lot of the times I was Ubering, I was taking the ride share, and fortunately for me, I have a lot of really great family, aunts, uncles, cousins that live close to me. So they were volunteering their time to help, get me to Seattle or get me to Bellevue or get me to, these different areas I needed to go to, which was great. And so I didn't end up spending a fortune on the ride share, because you really, you can, obviously. So, and I've been seizure free ever since, knock on wood, and feeling good and haven't had any side effects or anything. So, yeah.
So what's your new normal?
Well, I mean,
when you were unable to drive, was that depressing for you? Did you voluntarily give up your license, or was it revoked?
It wasn't technically revoked, but in the state of Washington, if you have had a grand mal seizure and you are driving, within that 6-month window, and something happens, God forbid, you have a seizure while you're driving and you kill somebody or something. I mean, it's a big deal. So I just voluntarily did it and said, I want to get this fixed and not hurt anybody and not hurt myself and figure this out. And so, it was really difficult, because there were times where I had to drive, or like a situation where I needed to go somewhere and I had to figure out another way to get there. So, Yeah, so that was, that was a difficult season, but again, I'm just so grateful that I had so much family and friends and people that were willing to just like drop what they were doing and come help me out. So it just made me feel kind of like I was depressed, but at the same time, I was so grateful, that I have all these people. So it was kind of and got to spend time with all these people that I see once a year. Yeah. And now I'm in the car with them for 45 minutes to an hour. And it was cool. So there's a few little bright spots in there.
Yeah, it was a mixed blessing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
So Aaron and I we met in 2017. I guess I should give you the backstory how I know Aaron. So when my tumor returned and we have the same surgeon, didn't we?
Yep.
Silbergeld.
Yep.
And then Dr. Lynn Taylor was our follow-up oncologist. So I was told that I needed to do a resection again, and I refused to do another surgery. The downtime and the recovery was so long. So they suggested that chemo and radiation might help me. So there was a specialized therapy called proton radiation, and I didn't know much about it. My tumor was too big to do gamma knife therapy, and I did not want to do just general radiation because it kills so much of the area, and that was not really an option I was willing to go through. So I said, is there anyone I can talk to that has been through all this? So they gave me Aaron's number, and I called Aaron, and I think we talked, I don't know, probably an hour and a half, just kind of like we're talking now. And it just was totally organic. And then the day I finished my radiation, in fact, I still have this picture. Aaron, his wife Brandy, came to meet me at the hospital, and we had coffee and we visited for quite a while. And always have kept in touch. In fact, I think you texted me on Christmas when you had your seizure. And I
probably did.
That was a pretty scary thing for both of us. So of course, I wish you a long life and healthy and all that. But tell us what your new normal is like. What's your deficits now? Any cognitive issues or forgetfulness?
I would think short-term memory's definitely been affected. I think that I have to definitely be more conscious of either repeating it in my head, whatever I need to do, or writing it down, like, somewhere to have a system so that I don't forget, because I never had issues with that before. I mean, I was in theater and I memorized, entire plays, no problem. So that part of it is definitely noticeable to me, and my wife notices it at times. And so it can be frustrating, it's just, it happens. Well, and not to mention, every time I say that to somebody, like, well, and you're getting older too. So you're kind of fighting, you're fighting a couple things, which is true.
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
So 2013, I was 30. Yeah. So.
And is that the age that men are diagnosed with this?
Yeah, it says between
mid-30s.
I think it's between 18 and 35 is what they said is kind of the range, or maybe 25 and 35. I can't remember, but yeah, kind of the 30s and up, upper 20s is kind of a typical age that men get this. More common in men than women, which is also.
And why do you think that is?
I don't know. It must be sort of a genetic makeup thing, or must just be some chromosome that we have that women don't have, that causes this to grow. It's hard to understand. I don't even know if they know. I don't think they know.
They're finding out so much, and things have changed so much. They reclassified my tumor. I know. Did they reclassify? Well, you said yours was initially a grade 2, but then did they reclassify it as grade 3?
They did, and that was right when I had surgery the second time.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so they said it grew so fast, the rapidness of it, we're thinking it's kind of changed from a less aggressive to more aggressive. But then last time I saw Dr. Taylor, she said, well, we don't really worry about the grades anymore. We just worry about, does it have the genetic markers, which are important for this type of tumor to be a better prognosis. And so it didn't seem like the grade really mattered the last time that I saw her. So that made me feel good. Like, I'm not going to worry about it being a 2 or a 3 or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So Dr. Taylor has agreed to come on my podcast.
That's cool.
I had my appointment there, not last Friday, the Friday before on the 19th. She's excited.
And you asked her?
I did.
Yeah.
Talking about it in her room, and I said, well, would you come on my podcast? And she said, yeah. But then I followed up with her, and it's going to be probably April or May before she can break away for an hour.